Welcome, friends. Thank you all very much for being here to commemorate our friend and colleague, Barney Bate. Barney's death in March was a shock for all of us, and because he was a person full of energy and life, and I think the fact that he passed away while he was on sabbatical in California made it harder to understand and cope with his absence, to come to terms with it. At the time, the students organized a very moving memorial. And then over the summer, I was able to attend a memorial in New Haven held by Barney's family and friends. It was really striking how many friends Barney had, and how even the friends from way back in childhood had these terrific memories to tell about him. He was such a joyful person that even on this sad occasion, there was a lot of laughter as his old friends remembered his antics, his enthusiasm for life. We wanted to hold another service now, a few months after Barney's passing, to have the opportunity to invite people from the community, our current seniors who were away, many of whom were away, and also we're very pleased that Barney's children, Noah and Cleo, are able to join us. Unfortunately, his other daughter Isabel and his partner Kijo weren't able to make it. Noah and Cleo, we're very sorry for your loss, and we hope that having a chance to see the impact your father had on students and faculty here and to meet some of his Singaporean friends will be some consolation for you. I know you've gone through a lot in the last several months just adjusting to this change in your lives. You can see that he was very beloved here in Singapore. As I mentioned in the ceremony in March, I'd known Barney slightly when we were both junior faculty at Yale more than a decade ago. And then when we decided to start Yale-NUS College, Barney was one of the first faculty that we recruited to join the new college. I think his background as a cultural anthropologist, his knowledge of Asia were part of why he understood the promise of a cross-cultural liberal arts education of the kind that we were planning to offer at Yale-NUS. And he was really an important part of the spirit of the college right from the very beginning. He became one of our first and most beloved professors. I think that coming to Singapore was not an easy decision for Barney. It meant leaving behind his family in the United States. And as much as he loved being here in Singapore, he was always eager to be back in New Haven with his loved ones. And it was fun to run into him at the camp, the summer camp, or at other places around New Haven where we would see each other along with our families from time to time. The last conversation I had about Barney just before I learned of his death was about his remarkable lecture on the family and comparative social institutions, one of our first-year courses, and how it made everybody think about their own definitions of family and brought tears to the eyes of many colleagues and students. And I think that we all feel, although we're big now, there are 1,000 of us, we still feel like a family, and I think we feel very close to Barney for that reason. Several friends of Barney's will speak today, some I think at greater length than I will, but I wanted to start by just giving some brief biographical information about Barney for people who might not know it. He studied anthropology at Hobart College, which is a small liberal arts college in upstate New York, and first visited India as an undergraduate. And then he later spent 3 years in Madurai working on his dissertation research for his PhD at the University of Chicago, which has a great tradition in anthropology. After he taught at Chicago and then after graduate school at the University of Michigan before joining Yale's anthropology department. And he later taught at Columbia before becoming part of the inaugural faculty of Yale-NUS. Barney worked in the field of linguistic anthropology, and he wrote a book and many articles about Tamil oratory and its relationship to the traditional Dravidian aesthetic of South India. And he also translated short fiction from Tamil. He was also beloved at Yale, and I saw many old colleagues there at the memorial this summer. When he got to Singapore, he immediately plunged into not just building the college, but also building the links to the broader community, both at NUS, the Tamil community here in Singapore. We saw a picture earlier of him playing a fun game with the workers who were building this new campus that we're in. We're very honored to have many members of the broader community here tonight to commemorate him. We're also grateful to those faculty and staff and friends of the college who've established the Bernard Bate Prize in Anthropology. We've lost a wonderful colleague and professor, and I think we all also feel that we've lost a great friend. Thank you all very much for being here tonight. We won't have introductions of each speaker, but we have a number of speakers planned and some music. So I'd like to start by inviting John Kelly of the University of Chicago and Yale-NUS to speak about Barney.
I knew Barney Bate for decades, in more ways than I want to count, in very dynamic ways, as for example when he convinced me to come to Yale-NUS. And now Barney has died. Barney was healthy, strong, and profoundly happy. This is going to be my felt theme, and I don't know if I'll be able to communicate it nearly well enough. I certainly wouldn't say that Barney was always actually as happy as he seemed. But these years he was. In the cosmopolitan life he was now living, he was in love with Ki Jolie. He loved his children. He was inspired in his research. And he was enlarged by his job, his extraordinary commitment to his Singapore students. Barney was strong, feeling young and optimistic when he died, not just like always, but in new ways, too. His work was utterly unlocked. His productivity in this decade and the next would have astonished people who remembered his graduate studies and Yale years. My wife Martha Kaplan and I have known Barney Bate, as I said, for decades. He showed us Tamil Nadu, even brought us out to Mahabalipuram when we were all graduate students. And even then his Tamil language skills and social savoir-faire in South India were legendary. What I remember most from that visit is his ease, freedom, and capacity even then for connection with everybody Tamil that he talked to. And he spent years in Tamil Nadu. It was a very special place for him. Barney was a man with an enormous capacity to communicate his enthusiasms. His openness sometimes led to pain for him. His student and later colleague Blake Wentworth has said that Barney had no filter. He was too deeply moved, for example, to concern and alarm by hate-filled rhetoric on American alt-conservative websites in the last few years. And he couldn't walk away. I mean, he would tell you about more things he'd read every day. More significantly, and this is very significant, the Academy dealt him more than his share of pain. The intensity so characteristic of Chicago, and shall we say the Yale-ness of Yale, were sometimes problems. Neither were perfect fits for Barney Bate's deeply commensal, collegial, and extroverted personality and sociability. His ethics were not merely egalitarian, but were leveling. Barney was respected and at home in Chicago and in New Haven, both of which have been sites of heartfelt memorials of their own for him. And Sid was just giving me a list of the extraordinary number of places that have had memorials for Barney. But that big personality had capacities undreamt of in those competition-filled sites of Chicago and New Haven, especially his festive ethics. Above all, the festive communal and commensal expressions of friendship were very, very important to him. When here in Singapore, I would get as many text messages from Barney as I would from my wife, Martha. We had a lot to plan and manage together, sharing duties in the common curriculum course on modern social thought that Barney shepherded and absolutely massively improved in his commitment to make it more Asian. But the main thing was lunch and dinner, and above the two, especially dinner. I would get one-word texts around 5 or 6 o'clock, or sometimes just a question mark, as a text. And answer it with a suggestion of a place or a time, or say grading, or something. Barney loved to cook. He was a brilliant cook, but he loved more to claim not to be a good enough cook. Claimed to be still mastering biryani, whose mysteries he wished to better understand, And many of you will remember that he preferred the cooking of his friends to his own. He sponsored an alleged biryani cooking contest and praised everyone else's and tried to throw the contest. And he liked to make famous the best dishes of other faculty, and among which must be mentioned Siddhartha Managuru's Sri Lankan crab, which I recommend to you all. So things were strangely excellent in Barney's life at the very moment of his death. That his scholarship was unlocked and flowing so well is witnessed by the Stanford Humanities Fellowship itself, and that's only a fragment of it. There were problems. Everybody knew that Kijo lived in New Haven and that Yale-NUS wasn't going anywhere from Singapore. And he missed his children. I want to say this to Noah and Cleo directly. He missed you guys profoundly. He told us stories about the two of you and about Isabel ceaselessly, passing on news, mentioning something almost every day. You may not have known it, but when you sent him photographs, like we saw them, his face would light up. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is that in a whipsaw worthy of the nastiest moments of some of the most Roman of deities, Barney Bate died in one of the very best years of his long and successful life, and after he had finally found his truest place. All of this notwithstanding, Barney was as interested in street life in Little India as in anything else about Singapore, and he had many actual friendships there, all effervescently conducted in the Tamil language. He was proud of his Yale-NUS students for their talents and achievements, and particularly fired up about your willingness to sponsor a banquet and a carnival to honor the construction crews who built this permanent campus for Yale-NUS. Again, Barney knew many of the workers, from high-skilled professionals to ubiquitous and necessary night watchmen, relations that went far beyond the commonplace gestures of mere banter and were actually personal. And here he changed the world in quiet and simple ways. When I used to walk home at night in the spring of 2014 from RC4 back to Kentvale past the construction site, I would hear calls, Barney's friend, from the new gateways, from men happy then to exchange a wave, and go on with their watching. We were all Barney's friends. Barney lived for us all. It's unbelievable to me still that he's not with us, that he will not see the current issue of Jimbras, which has launched the public academic careers of some of his students. And I think that he there laid a cornerstone for the intellectual soul of this liberal arts lighthouse within the global hub for big science that is NUS. It's unbelievable to me that Barney will never see any of you who are the students among us graduate, even the first cohort. I want us to think about that. Even the first cohort, he won't be here to see graduate, let alone see realized his secret dream of sending some of you to graduate school and then seeing some of those come back as colleagues here someday. That should happen, but he'll never see it. It is unbelievable to me that he did not live to see published the new book that he was having so much fun writing this year. We all already know that his death was untimely and senseless, but here is the opposite, reflection on what was going so well in his career in life. Barney was doing great things in Singapore, but you may not know that you all are the reason his life was going so well, specifically that he was a new kind of scholar because he had you, not, for example, me, in mind. The explosion of his writing and charisma in his lecturing was in his relationship with Yale-NUS. Chicago and Yale faculty and graduate students actually really irritated him in many ways. The way they read and responded to things that he wrote. He wasn't so happy to imagine our reaction, but he very much loved yours. And he loved teaching and working with you and had you all in mind, I think, as he was writing for you all. It is terrible that he died, but wonderful that he found and helped to constitute this complex place, community, school, and mission. Writing about the death of Lee Kuan Yew, Barney was interested in how a man becomes a sign. In different ways, Barney too deserves now to become legendary. He was kind, extraordinarily generous, sensitive, and decent. His humanity and his effervescence has touched all of us. You all made him stronger, and I think even in memory, he will more than repay that gift. Thank you.
I'm offering a reading on behalf of the Division of Social Sciences, of which Barney was an inaugural faculty member. Professor Barney Bate was a passionate, scholarly, capacious, playful, and sometimes pesky part of our division. He was the founding head of study of our anthropology major and inspired and mentored students coming into that major and beyond. He was a standard for what a college professor at Yale-NUS could be. He was, in that sense, a paradigm. Today I will read from a Tamil poem by the 9th century saint poet Namalvar entitled The Paradigm. The Paradigm. We here and that man, this man, and that other in between, and that woman, this woman, and that other, whoever. Those people, and these others in between. This thing, that thing, and this other in between, whichever. All things dying, these things, those others in between. Good things, bad things, things that were, that will be. Being all of them, he stands there.
The weekend Barney Bate died, we had a candlelight service for him in Saga College. Since then, there has been memorial services for him all over the world, in Chicago, Stanford, New Haven. Now, today, rather belatedly, we're gathered here once again. Why? Well, so that the class of 2017, many of whom were studying abroad, and some of Barney's family would come to celebrate and remember him. And we're so grateful that Cleo and Noah could be here. But truth be told, collective rituals like these are but an outward expression of our inward memories and emotions, and they must be repeated. Barney loved rituals and performances, public and individual. All of you here know very well his personality, the warmth, the exuberance, the pulse of life that flowed through him. Melissa and I were often the recipients of his radiance. He was actually the first faculty member to see us together during the first EYW weekend in April 2013, when he saw us in the Park Rochester Hotel, walking together so awkwardly to our first date. And to make a long story short, he ended up being my best man in the wedding last July. Little did I know that I had to give his eulogy so soon. Because Barney shared himself so freely, he shone very bright. His light blazed in Singapore, in the US, in India. And because light is not a finite thing that diminishes the more you give it. No, rather, the more you share it, the more it grows. But where there is much light, there is always an attending shadow. Truth be told, when Barney was here in Singapore, and John Kelly and Pericles has already alluded to this, he was often lonely and sad. And I think that's why he was always so empathetic, because he had this enormous capacity for feeling the depths of the human condition. And both his students and his colleagues were really drawn to that. He was often lonely and sad because he was so very, very far away from his loved ones. His partner, Kenjo, his children, Noah, Isabel, and Cleo. Barney loved to play the role of the paterfamilias, the big patriarch in the house, taking care of everyone, feeding everyone, making everyone feel special. Now, he didn't have his family with him here, but very quickly, almost immediately, the college became his family. The students were his children, and one of the first Singlish words that Barney learned from Melissa was the word children. His colleagues were his brothers and sisters, the Tamil community his aunties and uncles. He took care of us, taught us, read our papers, argued with us, made fun of us, and made us feel special. But it was not only the faculty and students he loved, but also the staff, especially the cleaners that he would greet in Tamil when they cleaned his office every morning, and the faculty support office, who really did support him in all sorts of ways. In fact, I should mention here that our former director of athletics, Wayne Coolwright, at this very moment is participating in an ultra race at Mont Blanc that will cover, as he tells me, 101 kilometers in more than 20 hours. And he, in fact, is running in Barney's honor. Professor Bate had an almost metaphysical yearning for places of all sorts. And the college was indeed his home away from home. But he also loved Little India, Kent Vale Classic, Jalan Kayu, RC4, and the phantasmagoria that is Harpaw Villa. These places and the people in them made him feel less lonely and sad and happier and more joyful, just as he made us a little happier and more joyful. One of the last conversations I had with Barney was about Lee Kuan Yew. Barney, together with John Kelly and Martha Kaplan and a group of anthropology students, waited in line for hours to see the Prime Minister in state. This experience had a deep and lasting impression on him. Barney said that what the young nation was experiencing was his passing into the ancestral and the intermingling of myth and history. Today, it so happens that across the AYE freeway, the nation is remembering another founding father, President S.R. Nathan, at the University Cultural Center, the same place where Lee Kuan Yew was remembered and where our own college had its inauguration a mere 3 years ago. Next May, the class of 2017 will mark the end of their undergraduate education by returning to that very same place at the UCC. Graduation, I don't need to tell any of you, is called commencement. But it is, of course, also an ending. Right now, we're at the performance hall of a new campus at the beginning of a new semester. This auditorium never had the pleasure of hearing the deep timbre of Professor Bate's voice. But it is also a place of introductions and farewells, beginnings and endings, the first and the last, young and old, all bound together by the mystic cords of memory. With the passing of Barney, what this young college is witnessing is the marking of our first ancestor, our own founding father, and the creation of our own myths and histories. So what I want to say is that John Bernard Bate, Associate Professor of the Social Science, is the first ancestor of Yale-NUS College. But ancestors are benevolent spirits. They hover in our midst, we cherish their memories, they embody the persistence of the past in the present. Barney writes in his beautiful, erudite book, Tamil Oratory and the Dravidian Aesthetic, that modernity is not the mere successor of tradition, but the production of tradition, and this production is the primary modality of modernity, a new newness, albeit a newness of old things. This year, with the passing of Barney, the college has become a little older and a little wiser. Thank you.
We are here to remember Professor Bernard Bate, or Barney, as he was known to all of us, as an anthropologist, historian, educator, colleague, friend, father, and a Tamil scholar. He referred to his work as dealing not with Tamil life, culture, or Tamil people, but with the Tamil world, a term he often used. His ideas of a Tamil world is significant to think about Tamil languages, Tamil oratory and ethics, politics and anthropology of Tamil society and culture through different lenses. I have read and heard about Barney since my graduate days, but I met him for the first time here in Singapore. We both came to Singapore at the same time. I still remember the day I met him for the first time. I saw Barney having his dinner at a paratha cafe at the West Coast Plaza. I went and said hi to him, and our conversation grew from there on over dinner, many dinners, and coffees. We were neighbors in Kentwell. During the conversations, cooking biryanis, and listening to Tamil songs, I learned the passion, love, and devotion Barney had towards Tamil language, Tamil culture, and music. He was versatile and had in-depth knowledge of early Tamil classical Sangam literatures, as well as popular Tamil film songs and oratory. During the dinner parties at his house, Barney always wanted to play his Tamil songs. Especially, he would focus on the great poet Subramania Bharati, lived during the British period in South India. He was working on Bharati's oratory style for his second book on notion of Tamil public. At times, I would tell him, Barney, there are people who do not know Tamil, and many not understand Tamil song, so we should play something else. But he would insist and play the songs. He enjoyed being surrounded with the Tamil songs. Later I understood, by being with him and through our conversation, that he believed the language could be learned and loved through songs, music, and oratory. For him, language through these forms could be accessible to anyone. He would describe how he fell in love with Tamil by listening to a music of a famous Tamil music director named Ilayaraja. He believed teaching Tamil was not only about teaching the grammar, literature, the classic of that language, but it was also about enjoying and loving a language through the everyday medium of music and film songs. He believed in the joy of learning a language through multiple ways. Film songs, its spectacleships, and its use in public places made Barney see it as a way of teaching and sustaining language. In an interview, Barney mentioned about learning Tamil language. I quote, "Learning Tamil language is not a duty, but your duty is to enjoy the language." End quote. A colleague anthropologist stressed on Barney's devotion for Tamil, fondly and teasingly points out how this love could be at times a bit blind. But what he remembers, and what we all remember, is Barney's pure joy in learning, promoting, and researching Tamil language, joy, love, and devotion through which he approached not only the Tamil language, but also his anthropological work on Tamil world. Barney's work with Tamil society and passion towards Tamil language began in the city of Madurai in Tamil Nadu in India from 1980s. Since then, Tamil Nadu and Madurai became his second home. One day, when we were walking down the street of Little India here, he told me that whenever he came down to Little India in Singapore, he felt he was back in Madurai. It reminded him of his home, songs, public speeches, and atmosphere. You had to see his wide smile when he hunted down Madurai Tamil accent in Singapore. He took a great pleasure to bring colleagues, students, friends, and family to Little India and make them to experience his world, a Tamil world. One of his major work was on the aesthetic of Tamil oratory and the public speech, where Barney examined the link between such transformative style of Tamil oratory, its speeches, and mass democratic politics, which transformed a large society since 1940s in Tamil Nadu. He showed the ways in which Tamil political modernity emerges through and was connected to the new Tamil oratory spread across ceremonial procession, posters, and praise poetry. His work contributed to the larger question of tradition and modernity, modern politics, and alternative modernity, public sphere, and notion of public in anthropology, history, and Tamil studies. Last few years, Barney was completing a book manuscript on the birth of modern political oratory in Tamil. It was about the beginning of the democratic practice in Tamil. Through such studies on Tamil world, Barney provided a new anthropological and historical lens to the Tamil academia and scholarly world. This influenced a number of young Tamil scholars who grew up during that time to relate to Barney's arguments and ideas. Barney also made Tamil language and Tamil studies and his scholarly contribution known to the Western world. His devotion and dedication to the Tamil language led him to teach Tamil in a number of universities in North America, and he was an instrument in bringing the Tamil program to teach Tamil in Yale University. He was one of the founding members of the Chicago Tamil Forum at Department of Anthropology, University of Chicago, which meets every year to discuss about Tamil world with scholars working on Tamil society and culture. He actively participated in all important Tamil study conferences annually organized by University of Toronto and University of California, Berkeley. Barney encouraged, supported all initiatives taken by young scholars and others for the scholarly study about Tamil world and its language. Through tireless efforts and commitment towards bringing the Tamil world to the North American and to the Western world, he bridged the gap between these two worlds. He would not only apply European and North American philosophical and academic themes to the Tamil world, but brought the Tamil philosophy, Tamil way of life, concept, and language to bear upon the North American and European themes and ideas. Through such encounters, bridges, he envisioned a more robust exchange between the scholarly terrains of the Euro-American academia and those of the Bay of Bengal littoral, namely the scholarly communities of India, Sri Lanka, Singapore, and Malaysia. In that, he was interested in producing nuanced ideas on anthropology of public, modernity, and politics through the dialogues between the East and the West concept. In other words, Barney brought Tamil world and language to think about anthropology itself. Barney made bridges between Tamil worlds and other worlds, but also within the Tamil world itself. He would not only attend and deliver talks on Tamil culture, language, oratory, and modernity in major academic forums in North America, Europe, and Tamil Nadu, but also he would participate in small forums, literature festival, events, ceremonies, and book launches in small cities, places in Tamil Nadu, Sri Lanka, and Singapore. His ability to be supportive, critically engaging, and providing suggestions in different Tamil forums, research arenas, events, and ceremonies showed his commitment to non-hierarchical forms of knowledge production, connections and representations between and within the worlds and societies. Barney worked with local scholars' ideas, not as informant, but as interlocutors. It was not easy to occupy and create a non-hierarchical knowledge production, but he tried, struggled with, for the marginal subaltern language, voices, and ideas to be heard. It was not only in his work that he tried to link and make everything visible in non-hierarchical form, but also in his everyday life. Barney could move and mingle with every ordinary people. In Singapore, he was not only known among the Tamil writers, poets, scholars, and the Tamil teachers, but also among the vendors, waiters of the Tamil restaurants, Tamil shopkeepers, fish sellers, cooks, and so on and so forth. He was loved by them. Barney, by constantly trying to cross boundaries, break hierarchies, and bridge worlds in his way of life, embodied what he preached and loved. In Singapore, he was in discussion with writers, scholars, educators from the Tamil community, and had plans to promote Tamil language research and documents on Tamil world. He spoke and acted in Tamil. Here in Singapore, in his beautiful and powerful voice, he acted as Macbeth in a Tamil translation. But I rather say that more than Macbeth, Barney was very much more about to be or not to be Tamil. For he decides very intensely to be Tamil. Barney was not only passionate about Tamil language and oratory, but he embodied being a Tamil scholar and a performer. In a true anthropological sense, he became Tamil. His work, ideas, embodiment of Tamil worlds will make great difference in year to come. Let me conclude this note with Barney's own words about his passion and love towards Tamil language by showing you a short clip that was produced in Singapore for the Tamil Language Festival in 2015.
I personally had a how when I was a college student and I had the opportunity to study in Mother Tamil Besides English and Tamil, I know a bit of Spanish, which was my mother's family. I know a little bit of German, a little bit of French, a little bit of Hindi. I really wanted to know a language that would represent a different worldview, that would give me a different way of thinking about the world and seeing the world. And in that respect, Tamil was almost perfect. Now, the Tamil case that I'm talking about, I'm looking world language, which is 7 million people speak it worldwide. It's quite a large language. I'm going to make a little bit here. The one thing I like about Tamil is the speaking. What comes to my mind right off the bat is the sound of it. It is actually a very, very beautiful language. I'm going to say,
The first class that I ever took at Yale-NUS College was with Professor Bate at the EYW that I attended in 2014. And I was immediately taken in by how dynamic he was and how easily he got all of the students present in that class involved in discussion. And it was around then that I decided that this was the place that I wanted to be, where I would be under the tutelage of such amazing professors. And so I'd like to sing a song in his memory. It's a Tamil song, Naan oru vilayattu bommaya, and it means, am I your plaything? It's addressed to the mother goddess. நான் ஒரு விளையாட்டு பொம்மையா, நான் ஒரு விளையாட்டு பொம்மையா, நான் ஒரு விளையாட்டு பொம்மையா, ஜகன் நாயகியே உமையே உந்தனுக்கு 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 நான் ஒரு விளையாட்டு பொம்மையா. நான் நிலத்தில் பல பிறவி எடுத்து நான் நிலத்தில் பல பிறவியெடுத்து நானிலத்தில் பல பிறவியெடுத்து திண்டாடினது போதாதா தேவி நானிலத்தில் பல பிறவியெடுத்து திண்டாடினது போதாதா தேவி நானிலத்தில் பல பிறவியெடுத்து திண்டாடினது போதாதா தேவி நான் ஒரு விளையாட்டு பொம்மையா ஜகன் நாயகியே உமையே உந்தனுக்கு நான் ஒரு விளையாட்டு பொம்மையா அருளமுதை பருக அம்மா அம்மா என்றும் அலறுவதை கேட்பதானந்தம்மா அருளமுதை பருக அம்மா அம்மா என்றும் அலறுவதை கேட்பதானந்தமா ஒரு புகழின்றி உன் திருவடி அடைந்தேனே ஒரு புகழின்றி உன் திருவடி அடைந்தேனே திருப்புகழ் இறங்காதா தேவி ஒரு புகழின்றி உன் திருவடி அடைந்தேனே திருப்புகழ் இறங்காதா தேவி நான் ஒரு விளையாட்டு பொம்மையா ஜகன் நாயகியே உமையே உந்தனுக்கு நான் ஒரு விளையாட்டு பொம்மையா 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 Thanks.
It has almost been half a year since Barney's death in March. It is the end of the third week for us, the pioneer batch of 2017 in our senior year. Yet I'm still feeling his absence almost every week. For the past few anthropology capstone seminars, I felt a lingering cloud of pensiveness in the room. I was sure that everyone in the class felt it, but we were too afraid to address the white elephant in the room, that this was supposed to be his class. He was supposed to be here, laughing and learning with us, sharing in our uncertainty and our anticipation for the road beyond Yale-NUS College. I often catch myself wondering, what would it be like if he was still alive? Barney had been a major part of our Yale-NUS College experience since the beginning. He was one of the first few professors we interacted with, and he immediately struck us with his ebullience and trademark belly laugh that rang through the narrow corridors of RC4 that seemed too small to contain this big man and his even bigger ideals. He was the course coordinator of the first ever runs of the Comparative Social Institutions and Modern Social Thought modules, and the first person to deliver a lecture to the entire class of 2017 at the Stephen Riadi Center auditorium on the very first day of our very first academic school year 3 years ago. His aspirations for the college were infectious, and I was one of the lucky few to have been in his class and to have had him as a personal advisor. Barney was a great teacher. He pushed us to question the world and to dig into the undercurrents that propel the social realities that we sometimes accept for granted. He inspired many of us to major in anthropology by opening our eyes to the complexities and the strange beauty of the world we live in. It soon struck many of us that the process of education could be an uncomfortable one, and we struggled to come to grips with the chaos presented by the real world when all we expected to find was a unified, coherent narrative. Barney knew that, and he was patient when debates broke out in class and when students broke down in distress. Barney was thus the perfect custodian of my personal odyssey, as when I, too, was reeling from the intellectual vertigo. He never judged and was never condescending, and the best thing about him was that he listened. Behind the smiles and the endless corny jokes, Barney was a person of incredible depth. At times, when we were making small talk in his office or along the corridors of RC4, his eyes would suddenly glaze over, and his words would take on a wistful undertone, especially when talking about his friends and family that he had left behind by coming to Singapore. Sometimes I felt his loneliness acutely, and I wondered about the sacrifices he had made in order to help establish the educational ideals that Yale-NUS College have come to represent. He also shared with me his struggles with depression and how life to him was colored in alternating waves of sunshine and darkness. It was in those moments when I saw Barney not just as an academic and a mentor, but a fellow human being who has witnessed, weathered, and ultimately lived life itself. A year and a half ago, when we last met in 2015, we were still housed at RC4, but the various departments had started moving into the new campus. I ran into Barney while trying to locate the registry's new office, and being his usual animated self, he personally gave me a tour of the new campus. Then, we went into his new office to discuss social theory and our plans for the future. I was slated to go to India for a semester abroad, which was made possible through his help and recommendation. Barney was to return to the States for a year to work on his book. We were both excited as to what the next year would hold, but I also expressed that it would be strange not having him around for a year, since he had been a key part of my Yale-NUS College experience from the start. Barney said that he would be back to lead us through our final milestone in our senior year. Little did I expect that in my final year, I would be speaking of Barney in the past tense. Now when I walk past the new batches of students currently studying CSI and MST, the brainchildren of Barney, I feel a pang of remorse. They don't know and will never know the man behind what they are studying. We have lost a great man, a man whose work on the world has not yet finished, but his legacy lives on. I know that generations of students and faculty will continue to benefit greatly from his sincere efforts in making the curriculum and the world around us more inclusive, engaging, and meaningful to them. And I know that the lives of those of us who have personally connected with him will forever be touched by his dreams and aspirations. It was truly a privilege to know him. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Some really moving speeches, and just a little bit overwhelming at times. So first, I'd like to say a few words on behalf of Kijo, my father's beloved partner, who wishes she could be here. She asked me to read a poem. It's called "But Not Forgotten" by Dorothy Parker. I think no matter where you stray, that I shall go with you away. Though you may wander sweeter lands, you will not soon forget my hands, nor yet the way I held my head for all the tremulous things I said. You still will see me, small and white and smiling in the secret night, and feel my arms about you when the day comes fluttering back again. I think no matter where you be, you'll hold me in your memory and keep my image there without me by telling later loves about me. Kijo writes, we shall no longer see Barney every day, but he remains with us because we remember both his radiance when he smiled and moments of hopeless despondence. We remember his vibrant, brilliant mind and his stubbornness. We remember all of us, his generosity of spirit, his candor, and his hilariousness, his endless capacity for loud, unchecked, confident joy, and his enviably inexhaustible desire to know. And with my memories of him, I carry all of the things he told me about you and about his time here. I carry anecdotes about his students' brilliance, about his colleagues' intensity, and about his secret visits inside the new campus structures before they were complete. You are part of and were part of his happiness, and for that I will be forever grateful. Thank you. That was from Kijo, and I'm going to speak as well on my own behalf. I think in some of these themes have already come up again. People who know my dad sort of tend to see a lot of. He had a big personality, right? So Kijo hasn't gotten to spend much time here at Yale-NUS, but when I see her, I'm going to tell her that Dad has helped to build something truly special. The beauty of this campus is striking. I didn't think it was possible to create a campus space cooler than my alma mater, Columbia's, but I think you guys have done it. But the physical campus is not what I'm referring to. You're building an intellectual community here. It's not a community dependent on shared racial or ethnic heritage, or religious or ideological background. It's a community united by a common intellectual commitment, a mission to bridge global divides, to forge a new path to a pluralistic future for humanity. I believe that one way Dad left his mark on this community is through his insistence that intellectual pursuits are fully compatible and even require happiness, silliness, and joy. I'm sure many of you got a chance to try Dad's delicious goat biryani. He originally learned the recipe from the family he lived with in Tamil Nadu when he first went there in college. And he spent years perfecting it, mastering the art of steaming the rice and the peas, figuring out where to get the best cuts of halal mutton, getting the right balance of spice, and learning, through trial and error, how long to bake the biryani. Dad loved eating his biryani, but being an anthropologist, he understood that food is not just food. The act of cooking and eating is really an exercise in building community. The biryani was delicious, but it was really just an excuse to have people over, people he could talk to about ideas while he plied them with savory goat meat and rice. Another of Dad's passions was language. Of course, language is practical. It helps us convey meaning, just as food nourishes our body. But Dad knew that it was more than that. When Dad spoke Tamil or read Tamil poetry, he was connecting with millions of people and thousands of years of history. He loved the way language sounds on a purely aesthetic level, as you saw from that video. But to Dad, it was first and foremost a way of being part of a greater imagined community, of participating in a larger whole. So it was with singing. When I was young, he would mortify me by belting out songs in public. I thought it was terribly embarrassing, but I realize now that it was a pure expression of joy, his way of reaching out to the world in the hope that the world would reach back. He loved to participate in communities. It was why he would frequently quote his favorite movies and TV shows and books. It was why he had such a weakness for internet memes, which are really just inside jokes that we're sharing with millions. At Yale-NUS, you're focused on ideas a bit more weighty than those silly internet memes. Here you're forging not only a university, but a model for humanity, a new city on a hill. You're building a truly global canon of human knowledge that spans the continents and laying the groundwork for a united world. Today, at a time when common bonds of humanity seem to be slipping away in a miasma of xenophobia, petty nationalism, and fear, you proudly proclaim that we are stronger when we learn from one another, when we stretch our imaginations out a little broader and cast the net of our community out ever wider. Projects like this university make me optimistic for our shared future, and I'm incredibly proud that my father was a part of starting this. So I ask you, as you continue to build your citadel of knowledge, not to forget what Dad brought here. And I'm not talking about his intellect, which was indeed formidable. I'm talking about his insistence that learning should be a sublime experience, an act of joy that connects you to a vast and magnificent world. Thank you all for having me and my sister here, and for showing us what Dad meant to all of you. And I know that you meant a lot to him, and this place meant a lot to him as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Noah. Well, this has been a very moving ceremony for me, and wonderful to remember my friend Barney and to see his son look so much like him and speak so well. It's like being part of CSI all over again or something. And so in closing, I'd like to ask everybody who hasn't signed the book at the front of remembrances and condolences, please do sign it. We're going to send it to the family when it's all completed. Before we leave, we have one more. It's not quite as classical or remarkable as Abhinav's performance, but something that I think is memorable to all of us and will remind us of Barney. One more musical interlude that recalls some of what Barney stood for. So I think we'll have that and then congregate outside for a few refreshments. Thank you all very much for being here.
Just let me state for the record, we're giving love.